Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching News at 10. I'm Berita RTM, making the headlines tonight. A new era of closer relation begins for Malaysia and Philippines. Immediate food bank assistance for flood-affected residents. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah visited the United Arab Emirates UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan at Qasr Al Par in Abu Dhabi yesterday. Among the focal points in the meeting between both leaders were efforts to empower bilateral relations in various aspects. Al-Sultan Abdullah expressed his appreciation to the UAE government for its willingness to accept a donation of 42 tons of humanitarian aid from the Malaysia government to be channeled through the UAE Red Crescent Society to the victims of the recent earthquake in Syria. During the meeting, His Majesty also extended an invitation to Sheikh Mohammed to visit Malaysia. The meeting was then followed by a banquet at Qasr Al-Shati in Abu Dhabi. His Majesty is currently in the UAE for a special visit for 7 days, which concludes today. Also accompanying the King on the visit is Raja Pemaisuri Agong Tunku Haja Aziza Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim arrived in Manila today for a 2-day official visit to the Philippines. He was accompanied by his wife Datuk Seri Dr. Wan Aziza Wan Ismail for his 5th official visit to ASEAN countries since being appointed as the Prime Minister late last year. The special aircraft carrying the Prime Minister and his wife landed at Villamore Air Base at 12:50 p.m. Upon arrival at the air base, he was greeted by the Philippines Social Welfare and Development Secretary Rexlon Gatchalian, who's the minister in attendance. Also present at the air base were Malaysian Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir and Foreign Ministry Secretary General Datuk Seri Amran Mohamed Zain. Tomorrow, the Prime Minister is scheduled to give a public lecture on 30 years after Asia's Renaissance, strategic takeaways for ASEAN at the University of the Philippines, the country's national university established in 1908. He will also receive an honorary doctorate from the university's Senate and meet with Malaysians in the Philippines. Datuk Seri Anwar is expected to leave for home in the evening. A new era of closer relations has begun between Malaysia and the Philippines as both Datuk Seri Anwar and Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. reach wide-ranging agreements on many issues of mutual concern. The Prime Minister announced in a joint statement that the new partnership efforts in various sectors will include the halal industry, food safety and security, as well as digital economy.
The President and I also agreed that both countries should intensify efforts to increase the volume of trade and investments. We have had a good beginning, but there's no excuse why we can't further increase both trade and investment that would be of tremendous benefit to both our countries. We also agreed that we should deepen the existing strong people-to-people ties through closer cultural and tourism collaboration, education, and sports.
The honoured members of the Malaysian and
Datuk Seri Anwar emphasised that it is the responsibility of both countries to support each other towards achieving the set objectives. On another note, the Premier highlighted the need to find solutions in the South China Sea and the Myanmar internal conflict. He said Malaysia also remained committed to playing a constructive role in the peace process in Mindanao. He noted that Malaysia will continue to offer assistance to the Bangsa Moro people through various capacity building programs. The upgrading of Customs, Immigration and Quarantine Complex CIQ along the main borders between Sabah, Sarawak and Kalimantan will be conducted in the near future. The decision was made in advance considering the border development plans to prepare for business ventures and investment that will arise from Malaysia-Indonesia relations. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli said the government is also emphasising on the tightening of security along these border zones by increasing number of guards posts.
Untuk pos-pos keselamatan yang akan dinaik taraf ialah di pos PGA Pagalungan di Nabawan, kos 4 juta. Kemudian pos keselamatan Haji Kuning di Pulau Sebatik. Ini di sebelah Tawau, saya ingat, tapi dia juga merangkumi infrastruktur sempadan. Anggaran kos berjumlah 5 juta dan kita akan membina 27 landing pad dan juga fuel dam. Ini untuk infrastruktur keselamatan dengan anggaran kos 8.25 juta yang akan dimuktamadkan untuk RP4. Jadi insya-Allah dengan perancangan projek begini dan juga tambahan yang telah diumumkan, kita berharap penyediaan infrastruktur ini akan membolehkan limpahan daripada pertumbuhan ekonomi itu dan ketersambungan itu akan memberi manfaat kepada penduduk di sepanjang sempadan Sabah apabila Ibu Kota Nusantara mula beroperasi kelak. Terima kasih.
Currently, the allocation for CIQ construction in Serudong has already been approved and will be done with an estimated cost of 819 million ringgit. At another event, Rafizi said that the government will focus on more practical and accurate spending for development projects. He said if the government is able to manage the implementation of an approved project well and ensure it is carried out within the allocated expenditure without the increasing cost from year to year, the need to spend is reduced.
Kerana itu membantu kerajaan dari segi keperluan hasil. Sebab itu dalam tempoh 12-15 bulan ini tidak ada keperluan untuk cukai baru, tidak perlu kita lihat kepada GST dan sebagainya, kerana sebenarnya dengan kita mengatur pelaksanaan projek kita dengan lebih baik, itu sebenarnya akan membantu menambah hasil kerajaan.
He said this after delivering his address at the HSBC Asian Business Forum in the federal capital today. Besides that, Rafizi said the government should look at GST as a better tax collection mechanism and not a mechanism for it to collect more taxes. He explained that the income of the rakyat must first be in a stable position before these taxes can be implemented, so it is done in an orderly manner. Following the continuous rain for the past few days, the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living KPDN will immediately send food bag assistance to residents in flood-affected states. Minister Datuk Seri Salahuddin Ayub said KPDN had so far focused on the distribution of ready-to-cook food and dry food to relief centres in badly affected areas such as Kluang and Segamat in Johor.
Kita sentiasa akan berhubung dengan pihak polis dan bilik operasi banjir supaya kita dapat menghantar barangan melalui food bank ini ke tempat yang diarahkan oleh pihak polis ataupun pusat operasi banjir. Itu yang penting. Tapi yang kita akan fokus adalah makanan sedia masak lah. Mungkin kita akan edarkan dulu di pusat-pusat pembinaan banjir dan KPDN akan memfokuskan barangan kering.
Based on the Social Welfare Department's portal, Johor is the worst affected by the floods at present, with over 7,000 victims from 2,000 families. Datuk Seri Salahuddin assured that there will be enough supply to cater to all residents who are affected by floods. Still ahead, the national furniture industry expected to continue soaring high. The Malaysian furniture industry has demonstrated a reputation for its quality and strength, enabling it to become a global exporter to more than 160 countries worldwide. It recorded an export value of 11.5 billion ringgit in 2022. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof, who's also Plantation and Commodities Minister, said the Malaysian International Furniture Fair MIFF 2023 is expected to generate sales of up to 4.88 billion ringgit during its 4-day show, which kicked off today.
For MIFF 2023, I have been made to understand that the expected sales generated during this fair could reach up to 4.88 billion ringgit. This is the most inspiring target, and I hope it will be realized. According to the Global Industry Insights Incorporated report in September 2021, the global wooden furniture market is expected to reach USD 550 billion by 2027.
Datuk Seri Fadilah said while many industries have been negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, Malaysian furniture exporters managed to do fairly well. The federal government is considering bringing back the iconic Pulau Pinang ferry, which services were terminated in 2020. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said the ferries were still available for service and there are plans to have them operational once again in the future. Loke said the ministry will look into what form of operation the iconic ferry will take, whether it will be a tourist ferry, a ro-ro ferry or a museum ferry. The ministry will hold discussions with the Pulau Pinang Port Commission regarding the matter. Loke also said the plan could face some challenges in terms of operation as the old terminal had long been refurbished to accommodate the new ferries. The refurbishment project on both the island and mainland terminals currently cannot accommodate iconic ferry operations involving four-wheeled vehicles. After being the oldest form of transport in Pulau Pinang, the iconic ferry service is an alternative route from Seberang Perai to the island and vice versa, was replaced by speedboat services starting 1st January 2021. The speedboats are only used to transport pedestrians, while the iconic ferry only carries motorcycles and bicycles. Meanwhile, Luke said the new ferry services will begin operations on 1st August, carrying only pedestrians and motorcycles. The draft of the bill on energy efficiency and conservation is still at the study stage of the Ministry of Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change (NRECC). Its Minister Rasmi Ahmad said many countries have adopted the law on energy efficiency and conservation, such as the United Kingdom, where all electrical appliances in the country are energy efficient, which saw the energy demand in the country having decreased consistently for 20 years.
Banyak negara dah ada benda tu. Jadi dia nak lihat dari segi penggunaan peralatan dan sebagainya, dia nak tengok kecekapan penggunaan tenaga. Macam saya sebut tadi, kita tengok contoh negara Britain, demand tenaga dia telah menurun secara konsisten selama 20 tahun. Ini pasal macam-macam lah, harga tenaga menjadi lebih mahal, sana subsidi tak ada. Seterusnya alat-alat menjadi lebih cekap menggunakan tenaga. Jadi itu semua mampu menjadi, jadi kita tak payahlah nak bina lebih banyak loji jana kuasa, dan sebab itu satu kos yang besar.
He said this after launching the Malaysia Energy Literacy Program in Putrajaya. Prior to this, it was reported that the government was enacting a bill for more comprehensive coordination and effective regulation by the Energy Commission. Aside from taking legal action onto perpetrators spreading obscene content and threatening messages on social media, the Communications and Digital Ministry also imposed restrictions onto contents that violate Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998. Its Deputy Minister Teo Ni Ching said the restrictions is made at the platform provider level, which also involves the telecommunications service providers.
Apabila kita terima sebarang aduan di mana kandungan itu memang bersifat lucah, kami juga akan menghubungi platform provider untuk pastikan kandungan itu akan dipadamkan. Pada masa yang sama, kami juga bekerjasama dengan syarikat telco untuk pastikan bahawa kandungan yang sifat meragukan tidak akan dihantar keluar. Bermula 2021 sehinggalah 2022, sebanyak 581 juta SMS yang meragukan telah disekap oleh sebab bukan sahaja bersifat lucah, tetapi banyak lagi sepertilah penipuan dan sebagainya.
58% of the 2,825 cases of misuse of communication services investigated by the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission MCMC from 2009 to yesterday were for the offence of sharing obscene content. Lembaga Tabung Haji TH will announce its profit distribution for year 2022 in the second quarter of this year after its financial position has been audited and approved. TH, in a statement released today, informed that the decision took into account the recommendation for improvement as well as the initial feedbacks of the Royal Commission of Inquiry RCI in line with the TH efforts to strengthen the operation, management and governance of the country's Hajj institution. It further said previously TH profit distribution was declared in the first quarter of the year based on its initial financial position. It added TH continues to remain committed to providing sustainable and stable profit distribution in line with the mandate of its establishment to manage the savings of Malaysian Muslims for the purpose of completing the fifth pillar of Islam. Coming up in our foreign segment, station master detained after dozens killed in Greece train crash. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol said today that trilateral cooperation with the United States and Japan has become more important than ever to overcoming North Korea's growing nuclear threats and other crises. Yoon spoke at an event commemorating the country's historic March 1st independence movement against Japan's 1910-1945 occupation of Korea. He said Japan has transformed from a militaristic aggressor of the past into a partner that shares the same universal values with South Korea. He added today Korea and Japan cooperate on issues of security and economy while also working together to cope with global challenges. Yoon's comments come after South Korea's presidential office said yesterday that officials from South Korea, the United States and Japan have held their first economic security dialogue amid efforts to strengthen supply chain resilience and develop technology. Though Japan and South Korea are at times uneasy neighbors, the three countries are keen to expand cooperation in various fields in the face of increased global tensions, a more assertive China and unpredictable North Korea. At least 36 people were killed and another 66 injured after two trains collided head-on near the Greek city of Larissa as emergency services raced today to find survivors among the charred wreckage. Several carriages were almost completely destroyed in the collision between a passenger train and a freight train just before midnight on Tuesday, with at least one car appearing to catch fire and trap passengers inside. Several cars had overturned or caught fire when they came off the tracks in the impact, leaving a tangled mass of metal and shattered glass. The passenger train carrying some 350 people had been travelling from the capital Athens to the northern city of Thessaloniki. The health ministry said most passengers were young people, with the train carrying many students returning to Thessaloniki after a long holiday weekend. According to Greek emergency services, some 150 firefighters and 40 ambulances were mobilized for the response. One of the questions investigators needed to answer is why the two trains were running on the same track when they crashed. Police temporarily detained the station master in Larissa, and at least 3 witnesses have been questioned. Ruling party candidate Bola Tinubu won Nigeria's highly disputed weekend election today, securing the former Lagos governor his lifelong ambition of the presidency of Africa's most populous democracy. With President Muhammadu Buhari stepping down after 2 terms, many Nigerians hope Saturday's vote would usher in a leader capable of tackling the country's widening insecurity, economic malaise and growing poverty. Tinubu, candidate for All Progressives Congress Party, won 8.8 million votes against 6.9 million for opposition People's Democratic Party candidate Atiku Abubakar and 6.1 million for Labour Party's Peter Obi, according to final results. The Independent National Electoral Commission confirmed Tinubu as president-elect after he also secured the required 25% of votes in 2/3 of Nigeria's 36 states and capital. Tinubu, a long-time political kingmaker who ran on his experience as Lagos governor from 1999 to 2007, campaigned saying it was his turn to govern Africa's largest economy. He promised a renewed hope but faced questions from rivals over his health, past grave accusations and ties to Buhari, who many critics say failed in his promise to make Nigeria safer. The European Parliament has told staff to purge TikTok from devices used for work because of data protection concerns after similar moves by the EU's main governing bodies last week. The Parliament's President, Roberto Metsola, and the Secretary-General, Alejandro Chiocchetti, decided TikTok must not be used or installed on staff devices such as mobile phones or laptops from 20th March. The Parliament's Directorate General for Innovation and Technological Support said web access to TikTok through the corporate network will also be blocked. The European Commission, the bloc's executive arm, and the European Council, which represents 27 EU member states, ordered a similar ban on Thursday over cybersecurity fears. TikTok said the bans were misguided and based on fundamental misconceptions and called for due process and equal treatment. The West is particularly concerned about what access China has to sensitive user data around the world, but TikTok strenuously denies Beijing has any control or access. In November, TikTok admitted some staff in China can access the data to European users. Last week, however, the company insisted it protects the data of its 125 million monthly users in the European Union. Next in sports, former Manchester United star Falcao linked with move to JDT. The Ministry of Youth and Sports, KBS, and the Malaysian Football League, MFL, are continuing their efforts to enliven the 2023 Super League by working together for big screen showing of 4 matches this month. The 4 matches include the Kelantan FC versus Penang FC match on 5th March at the Batu Ubin Youth and Sports Complex. Youth and Sports Minister Hannah Yeoh said this is one of the ministry's program to further showcase football matches and foster sportsmanship and local community unity. She said the big screening are being continued as the program was well received by the local community during the recent ASEAN Football Federation AFF Cup 2022 and Hockey World Cup 2023 matches. Based on the data collected for the big screening program, for the 2 screenings of the AFF Cup, 150,000 people came out to watch.
Bulan Mac kita hanya buat 4 kerana kita ada sidang parlimen yang sedang berjalan. Jadi KBS agak sibuk bulan ini, tetapi kita usahakan yang terbaik. Jadi dalam bulan-bulan yang akan datang, kita juga kena tengok bulan Ramadan, Hari Raya. Kita akan menilai, kita bincang bersama lokasi ini, KBS dengan MFL.
Hannah hinted that this program will continue for future matches after evaluating the reception given by the fans for the first 4 screenings. Former Manchester United striker and Colombian national player Radamel Falcao has been linked with a surprising move as he is in negotiation to join 9-time Super League champions Johor Darul Takzim JDT. According to a report in Spanish newspaper, Marcel Falcao, who still has a contract with Rayo Vallecano, which competes in the La Liga until this June, is evaluating an offer to sign a contract with the Southern Tigers. The report stated that the Esteban Solaris squad wanted Falcao for the next 2 seasons before making the 37-year-old striker a post-retirement ambassador for the club and the state of Johor. If he joins JDT, it will be the 10th club in his career after making a name for himself with several world-famous clubs including River Plate, FC Porto, Atletico Madrid, AS Monaco, Chelsea and Galatasaray. Among the championships, Falcao has won are 2 Europa League titles with Porto in the 2010-2011 season and Atletico Madrid in 2011 and 2012, in addition to helping Atletico Madrid win the UEFA Super Cup in 2012. However, Falcao can only make an appearance in the Super League after the second registration window opens from 5th July to 1st August. PDRM FC and Perak FC shared a point each after a drab goalless draw in their Super League match at the Petaling Jaya City Council Stadium in Selangor last night. Both teams, having lost their opening games recently, were let down by poor finishing, much to the dismay of the 2,250 spectators at the stadium. PDRM FC nearly broke the deadlock in the 48th minute, but Muhammad Nur Fikri Abdul Talib sent his grounder just wide off the left side of the Perak goal mouth. Perak then had a good chance to take the lead in the 56th minute, but this time Muhammad Hadi Farid Abdul Razak's attempt hit the right post, with PDRM goalkeeper Muhammad Ramadan Abdul Hamid rooted to his spot. A downpour towards the final minutes of the game made it even more difficult for both teams to get their game going. Despite the goalless draw, both PDRM FC head coach Azmi Aziz and Perak FC head coach Lim Tiong Kim were satisfied with the result.
Players lebih alert dan kita datang dengan strategi berbeza bila main dengan Perak yang diorang more direct, kita kena high press juga. So alhamdulillah satu poin pada saya hari ini kita berbuat hati sangat-sangat.
Tapi dengan persembahan pemain-pemain yang bermain malam ini memang saya boleh kata baguslah. Saja tak boleh skor lah. Itu saja. Peluang sudah ada tapi tak ada penyudahan. Itu yang masalah kami.
Faris. Delivery yang baik Faris kena bos. Bahaya kedudukan Christian.
Phil Foden's Braze eased Manchester City to a 3-0 victory over second-tier Bristol City as they moved into the FA Cup 6th round early today. Pep Guardiola named a strong side as he invariably does in domestic cup competitions, and City began the game in a dynamic style with Kevin Phillips hitting the crossbar. City did not have to wait long to take the lead through Foden firing high into the roof of the net from Riyad Mahrez's pass across the face of goal. The hosts did not buckle though and had a good shout for a penalty declined when Mark Skykes went down under a challenge from Rico Lewis in the area, while Alex Scott forced a decent save from City keeper Stefan Ortega. Bristol City, who were spared having to deal with much-rested Erling Haaland, were still very much in the game until Kevin De Bruyne split their defence with a ball to Nathan Ake, whose pass eventually fell to Foden, whose shot deflected into the net off Zach Viner. Alright, so that concludes this evening's news at 10. In our top story, Malaysia-Philippines to enhance collaborations in various sectors. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. Till then, I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Have a good night.